Have the 49ers anointed Brock Purdy too soon? Welcome to the 49ers Camelot Show. That's what we're going to talk about today. I just released a story for 49ers Web Zone based on that question. Have the 49ers anointed Brock Purdy too soon? We're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down. I've already seen some comments to the story, and some have said that the 49ers have not yet anointed Brock Purdy the quarterback of the 49ers. But that's indeed what they have done. Kyle Shanahan said that Purdy would be the starter going into the season. He said that earlier in the offseason. John Lynch added that Purdy earned the right to be the guy. So they've already said that. And look, they're not going to say Brock Purdy is the guy, he's the leader in the clubhouse until he starts to stink, or until the league catches up with him, or until his arm falls off, or whatever. They're going to say he's the guy. And that's what they're saying. And so, like the Kansas City Chiefs aren't going to say Patrick Mahomes is our franchise quarterback until he's not. So when they say Brock Purdy is the guy, they're saying he's the franchise quarterback. Now, a lot can change, and I recognize that, but still, they're not saying he's the guy until Trey Lance is better or until Sam Darnold's better. They're saying Brock Purdy's the guy. And so let's just go with that they have said that. I know some of you are going to disagree and say that the 49ers have not declared Brock Purdy the starting quarterback, but I believe, based on what they've said, that is exactly what they're saying. So then I had somebody else reach out to me and say, hey, Brock Purdy's the guy because you can't lose your job to injury. Really? I mean, is that a new rule this year? Because you can lose your job to injury. If you can't lose your job to injury, then when Joe Montana came back from his own elbow surgery, he would have been the starter and not Steve Young. If you can't lose your job to injury, then Drew Bledsoe, when he came back from his injury, would have been the Patriots starter, not Tom Brady. And so I realize those are extreme examples. I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Joe Montana or Tom Brady or however that goes. Not comparing. I'm just saying that you can lose your job to injury. And so when I replied to the guy, I said, okay, if you can't lose your job to injury, then Trey Lance is the starter, right? Because he's the one that got hurt that ultimately led to Jimmy Garoppolo and then Brock Purdy playing. So I don't have any issue with Brock Purdy. I think he did great last season. He worked well within Shanahan's offense, especially for a rookie. He did some great things. There were things that I didn't like. I don't like how he kept moving to his left, how he would turn around and go to his left. I didn't like that, but he's a young guy. He's going to learn not to do that, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. And one day there was one game that he did run into some trouble there. But for the most part, he did exactly what Kyle Shanahan wanted him to do. And I am high on Brock Purdy. I don't have a dog in this game. I don't care if it's Brock Purdy. Don't care if it's Trey Lance. I don't even care if it's Sam Darnold. I just want the best guy to be in there because I want the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. That's all that I care. That's all that I care about is that the team wins the Super Bowl. And so we just need the best guy in there. Is that Brock Purdy? It very well could be. I just have some concerns about are the 49ers naming him the guy a little too soon? Should there be a more of a competition? That's all I'm asking. So here are my four concerns. Four concerns that maybe they're naming Brock Purdy the anointed one too soon. So here's the first. Number one, they have a history of crowning starters too quickly. So all we have to do is go back to when they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo on Halloween in 2000. And as you well know, the final 5 games of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo led the team to victory. That was huge because they were horrible until Garoppolo got there. They hadn't won a game, and I think maybe they had won one game before Garoppolo became the starter. And so he ran off 5 in a row, and a couple of those were against good teams. So they obviously decided he's the guy. In the offseason, they made him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. So they're anointing him as the quarterback for the team. He's the franchise quarterback. Now, include me in the ones who are excited about that. I was all in on Garoppolo, but I was a little concerned that maybe 5 games wasn't enough. But I just hoped that what they saw in practice told them that he was fine. So fast forward 3 off seasons, and the 49ers now wanted a quarterback who was more dynamic. They had played the Buffalo Bills in 2020. Kyle Shanahan had seen before his own eyes what a mobile, talented quarterback like Josh Allen could do. He tore up the 49ers defense. And so I believe at that point, Shanahan said, I want me one of those guys. And I don't mind the Garoppolos and the Kirk Cousins, but I want one of those. And so that's why they traded up, they used 3 picks to trade up to the spot to get Trey Lance. And so here you have this new guy that he needed a lot of grooming. He needed a lot of development. He was the backup in 2021, his rookie season. And then after Jimmy Garoppolo takes the team to the NFC Championship game, the 49ers couldn't wait to get rid of him and decided that they were all in on Trey Lance. So at that point, remember, Garoppolo had 5 games that he had started. Trey Lance had 2. He had played in 10 total quarters, and they decided he's the guy. Now, again, I'm all in. I'm totally behind them. I was a little concerned. This is a championship roster. Are they making the right decision, handing over the keys to a young quarterback who needs a lot of development? But nevertheless, I was all in, and I was totally behind them for doing it. So now, after playing in less than 9 games with the 49ers, Brock Purdy has been named the guy. And so that's all I'm saying in recap to this first point, that they have a history of crowning starters too quickly, is that Garoppolo was chosen after 5 starts. Lance was chosen after 2 starts. 2 starts, 10 quarters. And Brock Purdy was chosen after only 8 starts. Is 8 games enough? So that's my only concern, is that he hasn't had time to develop. And really, the guy behind him hasn't had time to develop either. And the guy behind them, Sam Darnold, so far has been terrible as an NFL quarterback. So maybe they have no other choice. But that's my first concern, is that they have a history of crowning starters too quickly. Secondly, they have a history of giving up on quarterbacks too quickly. So they anointed Garoppolo after 5 starts, but then they started looking for his replacement only 2 years later. Remember, after Garoppolo led the team to the Super Bowl in 2019, after that season, Tom Brady is a free agent and made it clear that he wanted to play for the 49ers, and the 49ers admitted that they considered it. Now, you can't blame them. It's Tom Brady. But I'm guessing they decided to stick with Garoppolo because he had led them to the Super Bowl. And not only that, but Brady had not looked good his final season, or his final season in New England. And so I was one of the ones who was saying, hey, keep Jimmy. It would be great to have Brady, but he didn't look good last year. Jimmy took the team to the Super Bowl. But I do think it's interesting that John Lynch said that Brock Purdy earned the right to be the guy because he took the 49ers all the way to the NFC Championship. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo took the team all the way to the Super Bowl, and then a couple of years later took them all the way back to the NFC Championship. And that was with an injured finger or hand, whatever it was. And I think it was his hand. And then the injured shoulder. And so he still took them all the way, but the 49ers didn't give him that same courtesy. And so I'm not ripping on him. I'm just saying that that's the case. That's the situation. So Garoppolo had his 5 starts, was named the starter, And then within 2 years, they're moving on. They're moving up to get Trey Lance. They're flirting with Aaron Rodgers. They're flirting with Matthew Stafford. And so they couldn't wait to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. And I mean, even this past offseason, we waited and waited and waited for him to be traded. Then they finally released him, and then they brought him back. And so it's like they wanted to get rid of him, but they couldn't. Actually, I don't know if they released him or not. I don't remember exactly how that worked. But so how about Lance? He's played less than 15 quarters as a pro, and it looks like they've already given up on him. Now, they say they believe in Trey Lance, and I believe that they do to an extent. But the fact that they signed Sam Darnold to be the number 3 quarterback and compete with Trey Lance to be number 2, that makes me think that they're not quite all in on Trey Lance. And so that's the reason that I think that they just seem to give up on quarterbacks too quickly. They gave up on Garoppolo within a couple of years. They gave up on Lance within a couple of games, it seems. So are they going to give up on Brock Purdy if he comes out and plays terrible or has arm soreness or things don't go like they went last year? They're losing some games with Brock Purdy, and maybe he's the reason that they lose a game or two. Are they going to give up on him and immediately go right to Trey Lance or Sam Darnold? That's the only concern, is that Kyle Shanahan seems to always have his eye on somebody else. That's just what it seems like. I could totally be wrong, but that's just the impression that I get, is that he always has, he likes what he has, but he likes what he doesn't have even more. And so sometimes they give up on their quarterbacks a little too quickly. Number 3, they have a history of injuries at the position. So that alone makes me think, well, why don't you keep both and have them compete rather than saying Brock's the guy, and everybody's talking like they're going to trade Trey Lance. That would be a horrible idea, in my opinion, because of this. Consider this. Garoppolo had 5 injuries with the 49ers. He missed 35 games out of a possible 99 during his 5 full seasons due to injury, and that's including the postseason. Lance has 3 injuries in his 2 seasons with the 49ers. Again, at this point, he's only started 4 games, and he has 3 injuries. His first injury, the finger injury, apparently altered his mechanics enough that it affected his passes even into last offseason and then last season as well, when he's playing. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. So then Purdy has started 8 games, but he's already been injured twice. Now, his first injury did not cost him any games, but his second injury, the one he's dealing with now, definitely would have cost him games in the season if it had happened. But like right now, it may still cost him a game or 2 or more. And so you can't look at the 49ers quarterback situation and say, hey, they have enough, they're fine, we're happy with the 3 that we got, and then we have this 4th, the guy from Arkansas, because last year they had 4 quarterbacks play. And if this new rule was in effect, they would have had 5 quarterbacks play last year. So that's my concern. The injuries that they have, and Brock's not a big guy. So he's already been hurt twice in only 8 games. Trey Lance has been hurt 3 times in his 4 starts, and Garoppolo has he's gone, but he was hurt all the time. So then the 4th concern is that they might be ignoring Christian McCaffrey's impact. Now, I'm not saying that they don't know how much of an impact Christian McCaffrey makes, because his impact is huge. You can break down the numbers. You can look at it any which way you want to. Everybody knows the kind of impact that Christian McCaffrey made. But the thing that I'm talking about here is that Garoppolo played with McCaffrey for about 4 games. Again, this is not counting the Kansas City game, because McCaffrey had not even unpacked his luggage yet. I mean, he was in on, I think, like Thursday and played on Sunday. Purdy had McCaffrey for 8 games. So Garoppolo did look better with McCaffrey than he did without him. So the question is, what would Trey Lance look like with Christian McCaffrey? Would the 49ers have a more dynamic run game? Would their offense be better? Would Trey Lance look better himself? That's the thing that I question is if Brock Purdy looks better, if Jimmy Garoppolo looks better with Christian McCaffrey, doesn't Trey Lance need to, or doesn't Trey Lance, I mean, can't you say that he probably would look better as well? What's up, CG? CG Ruthless stepping in. Good to see you, man. I had him on the show, gosh, just a couple of weeks ago, and I've been on his show a lot, so y'all go check out his stuff. CG's a good guy. So that's my 4 concerns, is that the 49ers have a history of crowning starters too quickly. They have a history of giving up on their quarterbacks too quickly. They have a history of injuries at the position, and they might be ignoring Christian McCaffrey's impact because he might be inflating what Brock Purdy accomplished. Again, I'm not bashing on Brock Purdy. I'm well in his corner. What would he have looked like without Christian McCaffrey? That's all that I'm saying. And not only that, but what would Trey Lance look like with him? CG said, I think it depends on Purdy's health. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I think that Purdy can very likely be the guy. I mean, he has intangibles that are really impressive. So maybe his physical skills aren't quite what Trey Lance has, and maybe his physical skills aren't quite like what Jimmy Garoppolo has, although he's definitely more mobile and he's better in some ways than Garoppolo. But what he brings as a mature, confident leader in the huddle, I think says a lot. And then the fact that he's not, like, the play can break down and he can still make something happen. That one play where he went from one side of the field to the other and then and hit a perfect pass to who was the receiver on the receiver that dropped the ball in the end zone? I don't think it was Debo, but maybe it was. I don't remember who it was. Oh, it was Ayuk. I'm pretty sure it was Ayuk. That play would be played for years to come if Ayuk catches that ball. And so I definitely believe in Brock Purdy. I'm only saying that maybe they've named him the guy a little too soon because we don't know about his injury, as CG mentioned. And CG right here is writing again, I want to see what Trey can do also. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that if Brock Purdy can do this with Christian McCaffrey, if Jimmy Garoppolo can look better with Christian McCaffrey, what could Trey Lance do? So that's all that I'm saying. Either way, the 49ers desperately need a franchise quarterback. They need somebody that's going to be the guy instead of flip-flopping and having to start 4 different quarterbacks in a season because of injuries or giving up on guys because they're not quite ready or whatever. Whatever it is, they need a franchise quarterback. Whether it's Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, even if it's Sam Darnold, I doubt it is, but they need a guy, and Brock Purdy may definitely be that guy. All I'm saying, my only question and my argument in this is, are they doing this a little too quickly? So that's all I'm saying. I'd love to hear your comments. Tell me where I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with that. Thanks for joining us. If you don't mind, wherever you watch or listen, if you're on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Follow the 49ers Camelot Show so that we can keep bringing you videos and things like this. Everybody have a great weekend.